Footy and Frothies, Daggy and Danon with you again via Zoom. We're on daddy duty this week, so we're going to get through in some reasonable time and look back on round 25 of National Rugby League action. At the end of the day, what can we really say about some of these games, mate? But we'll see how we go. What's cracking and what do you make of the weekend?
Well, the final word I said last week was, well, Tigers will end up winning and my tips will be shocking. Well, I got half of that right.
Good job. What'd you get? What'd you get, 6?
I think I'd end up with 5.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, well, what of it? Those first 3 games, they jump out to a lead and can't hold on. The upset, Panthers, means the Storm now have the minor premiership locked up, and the Panthers actually dropped the 4th. Yeah, it was good to see a few upsets. Not for the Eels, means we're pretty much got the spoon wrapped up now.
Yes,
But,
well, all I'll say is I know they're the Tigers, but if both teams play like they did the last 2 weeks, you will have it wrapped up.
Yeah, that's what, 3 or 4 of the last 5 weeks, I think. Yeah, they've started on fire and then got a lead and gone, that's good enough.
Yeah, we'll get to all that. And we'll cover off the Panthers in due course. So we might even just I know we obviously spend a bit much worrying about Tigers and Para for the 2 teams running last due to the nature of who we follow, but we might even touch on sort of where Newcastle and Co are at, even for next year. I was just giving that some thought this afternoon, but in lieu of anything more interesting to talk about, look, we spent ages on it last week. I feel like we spend ages on every week, but the bunker once again managed to be the talking point from game to game to game to game. We now have, and maybe I just noticed that now there's mitigation involved. Now there's moderation involved. Now there's moderate and minimal force. It just feels like it's being officiated through rules that are written by accountants. You know what I mean? Like not by people who actually play football or have ever played football.
I think it's got to the point they need to have a group of 3 that just do every game.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't care what you pay them, just make sure you don't get a decision wrong. The game's big enough now that makes, tens of millions of dollars. Your job, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, is in that bunker.
Yeah, I agree.
And
hey, I'll do it.
So would I.
Absolutely.
That's it. That's your job.
And I don't care if it is Ashley Klein, if it is whoever, as long as it's consistent, at least I can get my head around it. And
exactly.
At least we can, at least if we're whinging, we know why.
The idea of 3 is majority rules.
Mm-hmm.
Done. I really think it's that simple now.
Yeah, okay. I think some things are overanalyzed. Then in other games they get rushed through. Then stuff like I think there was 2 or 3 balls grounded all but on the dead ball line this week that or grounded at all. It wouldn't have been given grounded a month ago. But yeah.
The only consistency with the bunker is depending on who it is, you kind of know what you're going to get. Some of them overanalyze, some of them try and get it as quick as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the only consistency, is that you kind of know, depending on which bunker official it is, how they're going to officiate.
Yeah.
But yeah, the bunker should just be consistent, and it's not. The Stephen Crichton shot
should have been a sin bin every day of the week.
Well, my thing is, if that's a Tigers player, or
if it's Jared Weir-Hargreaves,
or an Eels or those bottom sides, that's a near on send off.
Yeah. Well, we've seen that this year.
Yeah, the Dogs are the flavour of the month right now. So it was nothing, and I just you don't want to rave on about it, but and do I think the Bulldogs lose? Probably not. Even if Crichton goes off for 10, Sent, different story. But if he goes off for 10, I still think the Bulldogs win.
No, I agree.
But it's so obvious, the errors, that you just question, how do they make them?
Yeah. Even the simple, you go back to, and I didn't actually have that big of a concern, but you go back last week where that Melbourne one off the obstruction was given, which would have been, I would say, 99 out of 100 taken off a team for the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. The playoff was off the scrum, where the referee play. But Yeah, I don't know what I don't like I said. I don't really. I'm sick of talking about it, so maybe we just move on. But now the annoying thing for me now is that they always have to introduce more to justify someone's job, and it's like I said, this mitigation thing. So where did that come from? How do you know what the force is unless you get hit? Unless you're the one getting hit in the head, how can you sit in a screen a bunker and tell them whether it's moderate, minimal, or maximum force? Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
eh,
I don't know how they come up with some of that stuff. It's a bit like the gradings of a high tackle. It's like careless. Well, at what point is it careless if a player hasn't tried to lower his
well,
position?
that seemed to be dropped now, apart from on the rap sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's what I mean. If you've hit somebody high and you've not tried to lower your stance,
yeah,
and you've hit them high and they're upright, how can that be classed as careless?
yeah,
You've made no attempt to make it safe,
yeah,
so that should be instantly above the careless, because careless is accidental. You've gone low, but they've slipped, stuff like that.
yeah.
It's just another thing that's wrong with the game at the moment.
Yeah, and look, the sad thing is, there's plenty right. There's so much that's right. It's just this year feels like an overshadowing thing that here we've just spent another 5.5 minutes talking about it, which we shouldn't really need to on the eve of finals footy. Yeah, there's been some funny stuff. I was just when you were talking about careless and whether you're aiming. What was the one when Jared hit Nelson? Was it this year? Earlier this year, and they said, "Oh, you didn't try to minimise." He goes, "He's the biggest bloke in the game. What was I supposed to do?"
Exactly.
But anyway, well, speaking of which, judiciary-wise, he's going to miss 3 games now, so they need to get into week 3 of the finals.
They're talking on the radio today that him and Murray are both potentially challenging.
Right. Okay. But then he'd gone for good if he loses, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It means he'd get 4 weeks.
He must be confident of a downgrade. I don't know if I would be.
Well, yeah. I don't know.
Oh,
With his rap sheet,
I figured he'd just take the 3, but okay.
So would I, because they're going to finish top 4.
Yeah.
So he's back that second week of finals.
Ramian and Stephen Crichton both got 1
Mm-hmm.
for their respective shots. Corey Waddell, 2 games. And I still, when I watched this back again today, I still don't know how Paseka only got fined for the same incident that saw Waddell sin binned, and then even though it was first, Paseka was the one that had direct and moderate force to the head with his shoulder. But was I watching something different, or?
I don't know. I'm just glad the Tigers won, because they deserved it after that Manly start. The fact that they were able to put up that fight and, play out. It was almost the opposite of what they had been doing a few weeks ago, how they were starting good, playing for 60 and then dying off. They sort of went, all right, 20 minutes in, okay, now we'll play, and we'll play for the remaining 80.
Well, we'll get to. I'll just quickly knock over these injury news. Kai Pearce-Paul, severe laceration, had surgery, I believe, on the day or quite soon after.
Yeah, it was.
And will at least miss this week, but I guess it'll depend on his recovery there. Swiley, significant shoulder injury I haven't seen an update, but obviously not playing this week. HIAs for Frizzell, Nicarima Bromwich, RTS Pompey as well. That means they'll be gone for the year. AJ Brimson's out for the season as well. He's done his groin, and Kurt Mann has fractured his clavicle. We won't see him again for the rest of the year as well. Do you want to get this Tigers game, or is there any other news that caught your eye?
The couple of things that had caught the eye, Tom Trbojevic trying to cut his money.
Oh, yeah. What a wank. And that's actually not from a Tommy, if it's true, which I struggle to believe.
Yeah.
I respect Tommy for allegedly approaching a club if that's what he believes. But come on, as if you don't just suddenly let a club have here's 400,000 back in your cap because Tommy's a nice man.
Yeah, exactly. What else was there? The Kyle Felt retiring from the Cowboys.
Yeah, he's retired. I saw he's
leaving.
leaving.
Well, he's going to where was it? I can't find it now. St. Helens. There.
Yeah, okay.
St. Helens.
Fair enough.
And the other one, just as we jumped online, the NRL is investigating possibility of bringing back the NYC competition.
Okay.
I liked it
Yeah.
personally.
No. Fair enough.
It's still kind of there now. It's just
Split.
state-based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You may as well go.
So I don't mind it.
I suggest you have to if expansion's on the radar. I think there needs to be clearer pathways.
Yeah.
But that's a discussion for another time, I suppose.
And Latrell Mitchell made an apology on Instagram.
Yeah, face the board and whatever he did. So
that's about it, though. To be honest, there's nothing really big. The bit of complaints, and we'll get to it later, about the side the Storm have named. But my position is, if you're first 3 games clear, or 3 wins clear, 2 games to go, you got a short turnaround coming up before finals. Why not rest players if you can?
Yeah, I got no issue with it. They do it through Origin. They do it. Everyone else does it. So anyone else would do it in the same situation.
But that's about it, really, mate.
Cool. Look, I'll get to
chat about how the games went.
We'll get to the preview, but the thing is, the only other ways around it, I'm not really in favour of too many weeks off. But I think the AFL have the week off. I know before the grand final, but I would be looking.
AFL aren't there's some people in AFL world that want that wild card brought in, because they do have more teams than the NRL. So it'd be like 7 versus 10, 8 versus 9 on this week. I've seen that pop up a fair bit today on social media. Whether there's any substance to it, I don't know. But people don't want that. Fans don't want the week off.
No, I don't want the week off either, really. Admittedly, some games are getting a bit long in the tooth, but I think the way you fix it is you fix up Origin. Like, shorten the season, take the week to week out of, like, take the Origin period out, shortens the season by a month. And then
they start after us and finish before us.
Yeah.
And they've got a 20-team comp. So
I imagine what the NRL want to get to is a 20-team comp where everyone just plays each other once.
I believe so.
Which makes it 19 weeks, I guess.
So on that, how does the NRL not have the Storm playing at home this week when there is no AFL on in Melbourne? I don't understand. Like, that's an easy sellout.
Yeah, it should actually be, especially as the minor premiers. I mean, you don't know that when you set a draw.
You don't,
of course. But if it is a week off, then there should be something targeted there. Particularly, it would have been big given they are minor premiers. End of the day.
Like, the issue is, it's probably a bit too late in the season to be having teams travel to WA and South Australia and that. But this is the perfect week to go. Here's a game in WA. Here's a game in South Australia, because there's no AFL on.
Yeah, of course. Well, again, you're not to know, but again, if you could send,
you're not to know who's going to be
but
where.
You could send
but
a Dolphins game somewhere or something.
That's it. But this week there is no AFL on in Melbourne, South Australia, and WA.
Yeah. No, that's fair commentary. Until they pay me lots of money, I won't give much more thought to it tonight, though. So, 34-26, the Tigers beat the Sea Eagles at Leichhardt in a game. Well, end of the day, I thought they almost should have won by more. I thought they were dominant. After trailing 16-0, they were a dominant team for a big chunk until Tommy Turbo terrified everyone and just decided that he was Tom Trbojevic for the last 15 minutes. And they probably almost really should have got out of jail, Manly, except for some errors from some of their outside backs. But a real good performance. What do you make of it?
If Tom didn't play, you potentially win by 50.
Yeah, I agree.
Like,
because there's a couple of try-saving plays plus the 3 tries.
Try-saving plays plus what he does in attack. But again, it was just a great game. It was the Tigers. They didn't drop their head even though the poor start, which you as a Tigers fan, I'm sure you loved. They kept it going because
they felt on top despite the poor start. Like it could have been 6-6. It could have been they bombed a couple early.
Exactly. They bombed a couple of early. So Manly was putting their chances away, and the Tigers weren't. But once the Tigers got that first one, it was just like, all right, we can do this, and they just kept going.
I really like a lot of the kids. I'll get to that. Keep going.
Yeah, no, it's pretty. It's kind of what we've been calling for. Try and just put in that effort and non-stop. And that's what I mean. Those two blown tries early could have very simply been tries.
And both were forward
And
passes. Like that's not a hard. That's not a
exactly. And then next
difficult
thing
thing
you
to
know, we're
change.
talking about like a 46 to
Mhm.
20 odd score line. It was probably the closest to an 80-minute performance that you guys have put together in 3 years.
It was really good, and like I said, I've spoken about it last month. I really like what I've seen from some of these kids, and they're just getting the sort of players. Once they get 40 first grade games on the belt, you have faith in them. You even see the growth of Seyfarth this year, going from sort of a 30 to 60 game player. It's been great, but obviously Galvin was fantastic for big chunks. Sam Fainu's been the almost Tigers player of the year, if it isn't Galvin, or if it isn't Appy, who was phenomenal in this game, particularly in defence, just putting his head everywhere. And then Latu Fainu looked really silky in the chances he got. Fatape was good. He's still a bit on the small side, but tried hard. And Heath Mason did some real good things. He got a bit lost in defence at times, but obviously hasn't. I don't think he's been playing fullback a lot either. At least not at first grade. He obviously hasn't. But I thought he was very good. So you throw in Fanua Pole, who was outstanding as he has been. It's good building blocks. It's good building blocks, but you'd like to think if they all of a sudden go to with essentially 4 straight wins with the bye, they go in the off season. A lot of those kids are feeling pretty good about themselves come summer. So I think it's a good signs.
100%. 100% it is.
Manly were pretty average in big chunks here. And yes, they were 3 short, and yes, there were 3 sin bins. I agreed with all of them from what we've seen, or at least what I've seen of late. So I don't think there was anything. The only one I didn't understand, I said, was Paseka staying on as opposed to Waddell. But the forwards were owned at times through this. Jake had some good spurts. I thought they did a good job of keeping the rest of them fairly quiet. And Tommy being, terrifying. There wasn't a great deal else out of this team. I suppose I was looking through. Alloa did play quite well at times on the field, but any thoughts on Manly's performance, and how does it leave them now going into looking at probably finishing 7th?
I chatted about last week that they could be one of those sides with a small chance to still win the comp due to Cleary not being there. I think that's completely gone now.
I agree. They had to win this by 30 for me to.
That's it. So my biggest thing was obviously Tom could win them the comp as long as the rest of them show up.
Yeah.
And they just, if you can't show up against the Tigers when you're playing for a home final spot, you can't be trusted to show up in the finals themselves.
Exactly right.
And that's it. So, Tom could still get him to a prelim.
Yeah. Well, because the draw's quite kind.
Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
you're still going to play someone like for like.
They could play the Cowboys, beat them up there. Tom could, depending on who they get the second week, potentially get them the win. But I now don't see them putting enough wins together to get to the grand final when it looks like they're going to be travelling to North Queensland first round of the finals.
Well, actually, aren't they undefeated up there? So maybe
they probably are, but it's just the travel side of things.
I know it's a different different thing. Yeah, 4 errors, 4 handling errors. Jason Saab 8 errors all up. There was
Saab made comments earlier in the week that feels like he's the best winger in the game at the moment. He's probably regretting those comments now.
Good for him. He might be the fastest. Although you know what, Khan Pereira and co would probably give him a race. I found them. End of the day, they were disappointing. Even by their own admission. It's still your discipline, your own discipline that costs you players on the field. So see how they bounce back this week.
They'll still make the finals, but they won't be as threatening as what we thought they might.
Yeah, but you get into those games, those what are they called, elimination finals or whatever they are, the week 1 finals, and they become those slogs, and they don't feel like a slogging team. They feel like a team that you need to get, that they want to get into a fight like this, 36-30 sort of game, and hope they come off the best.
I don't think they've got the forwards to match it.
Correct.
And then,
Okay.
and we mentioned that last week. We thought if they're going to beat the Tigers, it's just going to be their back line just causing havoc.
Yep.
But their forwards weren't there to stop the Tigers doing exactly the same back to them.
Exactly right. Well, let's give some points and move on. We don't need to spend much more time on this.
Galvin,
3, you're saying?
yeah.
Yeah.
Tommy,
2, and either Fainu or Sam Fainu or Appy for 1, I was thinking. Pole.
Sam Fainu, he was the one that came on off the bench. Which one's that?
No, Sam started. Scored the last try. Samela Fainu.
Is it Latu?
Latu came. Latu was.
I had
5'8".
Latu. I thought he played amazing.
He had some very nice touch, and he was the.
I know he wasn't on for long, but that's where the game could have gone either way.
He was
came on for Caesar.
I was actually really happy to see him because he has some nice hands, and he was the pick of that age group, the Galvin age group.
Yeah, I personally had him, but obviously you go for gold. But I just thought because that could have been a turning point. Caesar off, him on, and he just that ball inside, or just on the outside for was it the Safer try?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
that was beautiful, and that just kept the momentum going.
He's a very good player. I would be excited down the road if Galvin ends up at lock and he ends up in the halves as well. But a lot of water down the bridge there. Look, I'll stick with how many tackles did you make? I'll stick with Appy because I just thought some of his tackling was unless I imagined it. I'm trying to say.
And he scored a try. Appy scored a try himself, which was got the ball rolling.
But he was just in and about and defending in some odd spots when he had to as well.
He's in and about every game for you guys. Surely he's going to be your best player of the year when the awards come around.
Well, it's a 3-way contest if you're going to include Samuel Fainu in there. And Pole's made a late charge, but give it to Pole ran like an needed point. Actually, give it to Appy, and we'll move on. Hardly going to make a difference. 34-18 over the ditch. We touched briefly on the sin bins. We won't reharp too much of that, but it did make a difference here, I thought, because it meant at the end of the day they lost both centres, the Warriors, and the second half just opened up with them. Well, actually, from about the half-hour mark on, another game that was a 12-0 lead. From the half-hour mark on, they just really hammered that channel with Kickow, Sherry, Burton and co. and opened them up, and that was ultimately the difference in this game, I would have thought.
Yeah. Well, as I said, at the end of the day, that wasn't it another half, second half where the Bulldogs did not let in a point, which we mention it week after week. They're slowly starting to get that attack going. 6 tries again this week, but it's their defence that is winning them games.
Yep, I'd agree with that. And fitness, because all this comes back to fitness, and I've said it as enough times that I would suggest if you listed the teams in fitness order, they'd be pretty close to the ladder.
Yeah, definitely.
Or at least 80-minute fitness.
Yeah, definitely. It's just, what do you say? I think the emotion might have got to the Warriors players as well. Sean Johnson's last game at home, you don't want to use that as an excuse, but I think it might have been.
And just starting so well, I don't think helped in some ways, because I think they rode that emotion for the first 15, and it's the old adrenaline dump. Once that goes, you need to get back to find a process, and they never really found that process after that. Yeah,
exactly. So, at the end of the day, it was the result that we thought would happen. It would be close at halftime, and then the Bulldogs would run away with it. And it's exactly what happened.
Luke Metcalf, a nice return, or second up game. Had his hand in some of those points, but all across the field, I thought the Bulldogs were great, and they're just gelling really well. The same combinations that Barn and I and yourself a little bit early in the year talked about looking a little bit slower, a little bit. They look like stuff that will click down the road, and it is. Serrato's working great things. Some of these young blokes have found as well, Harry Hayes, Bailey Haywood and co, are fitting right in. So they're building a nice solid base for the next couple of years here.
Kurt Mann's going to be a loss, I think, with his busted.
Do they get? I haven't looked yet. Do they get Curran back?
I don't know if to be honest, I haven't looked yet. Max King came back that game.
Yeah,
So if Curran comes back, it's not bad,
not the
but
end of the world. But like I said, Hayward and Hayes did a good job,
yeah, definitely.
or Hayward has been getting his head in there as well. So he's a loss, but not a season-ending one. Kick out some really good touches, and as I said, setting up Sherry and really creating some havoc out there actually. But both halves played well. Connor Tracy did what he did, kept things direct when it needed to be. Just a real complete back end 60-minute performance.
Yeah, my biggest surprise actually from the match, even though the Dogs scored so many points, none of their players actually went above like the 150 meters.
Well, across
I think
both
it was,
teams, it wasn't really a stat-heavy game, was it?
yeah, it wasn't. I've not really seen a game like that where the meters from both sides just seem to be so low.
Fanua Blake led the tackle count and with 49 tackles and 124
Miss.
metres.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, he was his usual good self.
Yep.
Anyone you want to single out for me, the team, or we just keep rolling through and
Keep rolling through. It's another Dogs performance where it's just that solid team effort.
who are you thinking give points to?
To be honest, I don't know. I don't. I'm trying to remember the game to think like what caught my eye the most, but
Burton, a couple of try assists and linked up real well with those
yeah.
outside backs. Also, I think there's a 40-20 and some good kicking along the way. So he's in the conversation. Sherry, outstanding. And Kickow, I would suggest somewhere around those. What about, how does Burton 3,
Burton 3,
Fanua Blake 2, and Sherry 1 sound?
that'll work.
Credo was very good. Fox is having a good run now. He's fit again.
Yeah, he's starting to get back
and
into
Reed,
it.
another one that did make a game high tackle count there. Just catching up on some stats. It seems to have helped him a bit, being put back in his box on occasions these last couple of weeks. Now, Dane, in 24-30, the Eels decided about half hour football was enough for him in this game.
Wasn't even half an hour.
It was about 10 minutes actually, but very exciting start, and then it almost felt inevitable they're going to get run down for a long period of this. What did you think?
From the moment Gustafson went for that penalty goal
Yep.
in the 46th minute, it was game over.
Yeah.
It just wrong time. At the end of the day, I think the last few weeks has shown why we pay Moses $1 million a season.
That's true.
Because we just got no control. Once, we're a flamboyant side that can put points on with the crazy amount of offloads, and they do come off, and we saw it coming off, and we saw the plus side of it. The negative is without that dominant half in that side to say, all right, boys, rein it in, or be able to kick them out of pressure, just take control when you've got that lead. I'd argue to say that if we had Moses 4 of the last 5 weeks, we win.
Yeah. I
with the leads that we've had.
True, in terms of just being able to fluctuate the pace of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Still, there's outside back defensive concerns. Still, there's. This is a bigger rebuild than the Tigers, or this is probably the biggest rebuild in this Parramatta team.
Yeah,
because you can poke holes in just about everyone bar. Well, obviously Moses has said. Actually, just mentioned Gerald Fangawi had his best game. He's
been amazing for us this year.
Yeah.
Campbell Gillard's been arguably our best player since he's been tapped on the shoulder.
Yeah.
What do you say? Sivo's learned how to tackle.
Mm-hmm.
He's still made some errors, but he's made another couple of try-saving tackles. But again, another one that's been tapped on the shoulder, told he can go. Gutherson got shown up for speed. You love the guy's heart, but I think it's getting to that point where he just doesn't have what it takes to be a fullback in the modern game anymore.
No, he just lacks. Yeah, he's probably a centre now.
Yeah. Funny thing is, the Broncos now think they're going to make the 8 because they beat the Eels. It's like, calm down, guys. You've beat the Eels.
Look,
yeah.
they did have to still do the job and get the points here, and they did score 30.
Yeah.
And it was Reynolds and Tristan Saylor who led that back. I thought Saylor was very good.
Yeah.
Allowed.
Carrigan. I thought Carrigan was great as well.
Yes, he was.
Carrigan. I had him as my man of the match.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue. That.
He was just. He's amazing.
200
He's one of those footy players you just love to watch.
215 metres, 53 tackles as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he especially since Haas been injured, he just throws them on his shoulders and gets through what he has to do.
You know, it was closer than what I thought, or what we thought last week when we were having a chat about it. But I think that's purely only because the Eels come out of the blocks and the Broncos didn't.
Mhm.
From that 10 minutes on, it was 30 points to 6. All Broncos.
Yeah. Tristan Saylor's an exciting prospect. He's going to spend some time overseas, is he? Is that right?
Yes, he has signed with somebody in the UK. I'm trying to think who. Is it the Dragons? Catalan
I
Dragons?
feel like Catalan's as the first one that came to mind. So
yeah,
let's assume that. Yeah, Reynolds kicking was good. Had his hand. He had a sneaky intercept and had his hand in a couple other tries. But yeah, the class prevailed pretty much on the back of them and just some work from the outside backs. Yeah, let's go with. Look, I'm not. They can. Interesting to see what happens in the next couple of weeks with the Broncos. 3 to Carrigan, 2 to Saylor, 1 to Reynolds, or was there a power-worthy player?
Nailed it. Nailed it. Don't deserve a coin.
Then we got to Saturday, 22-18, the next upset on the cards with one probably none of us saw coming, but maybe should have. Raiders over Penrith in it. Another nothing happening game, really, if I'm being brutally honest. Everyone from Penrith sort of did exactly what they generally do, ran their usual meters. Yope was outstanding. Fisher-Harris was fantastic. They just couldn't ice Canberra for long periods, and ultimately popped up an intercept, and they scrambled home.
Yeah, if you look at those stats, you would assume Panthers have won this by 3 tries.
Yeah.
The biggest one, the 7-2 in the line breaks.
Yeah.
They ran for 280 more meters, made an extra 50 in the post contact meters, made an extra 100 in kick return meters. Possession was 47-53. Like all the stats just scream Panthers have won this and comfortably, and they didn't. They just, as you said, they were missing that icing on the cake. And this is why we said the other teams could beat them now, because Cleary wasn't there to be that icing. But again, this is that end of season stuff where again it's Canberra's last game at home, so they're pumped up for the sending off of Elliot Whitehead, and I think there was a couple of others that were mentioned. Those within the Panthers would still be confident they can win the comp, especially depending on when Cleary comes back. But it just gives the other teams a sniff as they're going up ahead, knowing that they can be beaten.
Yeah, the way they frame it is they've lost. What have they lost? They've lost to Melbourne twice by a penalty goal, or a try and penalty, and they've lost here in the 10 minutes to go with an intercept.
And again, but they should have lost to us as well. Like,
True.
so this has normally been the point of the season last few years where they've started this run that's just blowing teams out of the water, where this year they just seem like they're there to be beaten if you're good enough.
Yes. And they can potentially finish 5th if they drop another one, I believe.
Yes, I do believe so.
They, there's been a lot of panic stations from a few people. I don't think it is. I agree with you. It's not panic stations yet.
The Bulldogs can jump them if Panthers were to lose the next 2. Bulldog or for and against. Actually, it only have to be. Yeah, Bulldogs are 1 win behind.
Yeah. Okay.
And for and against wise, it's only 12 points difference. So Bulldogs win 2 of their last 2, and Panthers only win 1. They will jump them. You would assume.
I'm not sold on Dane Laurie as a winger. I think there's several positions he's been very good at. I don't know if wing's one of them. I don't know if you can manufacture something with Edwards maybe going to 5'8" for a week or 2 here just to help out, or play Laurie at 5'8". had some success there, and I do think someone like Taruva is better served there. Although Laurie did all but score 2 tries, he scored 1, and all but was denied by Hopawade at one point, and what was the other one? Close shave there. Fisher Harris nearly scored as well.
Yeah.
For Tapane was for Canberra. Tapane was great. Rapana still busts his ass back there. Hopawade, Tomoko, probably their two best, really. Two most dangerous players. Anyone interest you from the Canberra side of things?
It's more the game plan. They followed Melbourne. Kick to Toto.
Yeah.
Put bombs up to the shortest winger in the game.
Shocking revelation.
It's only taken teams, 4 years to figure this out. Savage got the first try from it.
Yeah.
I team's just going to continue doing it now.
I think so. And it's funny because for years, teams have just kicked to Taruva to avoid Toto.
Yeah. Which, if anything, has helped them in their most dominant part of the game, which is Toto running for more than 200 meters, because he takes the first hit up and just makes 15 meters every run. So he's liable in the air, and then if he does get the catch, he's not getting that running start.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. It's a big 6 months for him. And I still think there's a potential exit on the table after November. They just asked him to keep quiet about it. Where this next 6 months last, because if this is a pattern, all of a sudden, his origin and ranking as the premier winger becomes quite concerning.
Yeah, definitely. So, he's still a meter eater.
But no doubt. His form's actually been really good, apart from that. Cause
like 131 meters for him. That's a bad game.
True.
Most wingers, other games we were saying, that's, for some wingers, that's a great effort. But for Toto, that's below average.
He still doesn't get. He had been for those games he was scoring tries. He hasn't got a lot of attacking ball in his last few weeks either.
No, definitely not.
Missing some spark inside.
Edwards looks like he's not 100%. And I think if Cleary was playing, I don't think Edwards would be playing right now.
Okay. Think they've rushed him back?
Because Cleary's not in.
Yeah. He is lacking a half. A lot of these fullbacks are actually. Pappy, him, Gutho, just all are a half a yard slower than their best, and half a yard means a fair bit now in this game.
Yeah, it does. Definitely does.
Yeah, big effort from Canberra. They got probably the last win of the year. I'd suggest it was. I'd treat this as a flash in the pan. Now they're about to jump on the road again. Is it panic stations if you're a Penrith fan?
Have they said when Cleary will be back?
Finals was the word today.
So week 1?
I assume so. I would suggest it might depend who they're playing.
Yeah.
And if they win these next 2 games, to be honest. I reckon if they drop next week, you might see some proper concern.
I think it's panic stations if they drop this week.
And who have they got?
The South. That's what I mean.
Oh, if that is panic stations. I think they'll be happy to cruise this week.
That's what I mean. They're going to try and cruise this week. If they lose this, I think it's panic stations, because then it's the Titans last game.
I would think they would want to put 30 on both these teams just to feel good, I reckon.
And that's what I mean. But yeah, that Titans game could come down to, if they lose that could be 5th spot instead of 4th.
Yeah.
But they might want that. They might not want to go down to Melbourne.
It's now a very interesting thing whether you do want that or whether you'd rather. But then you'd have to play him in Sydney anyway, wouldn't you? Now they get the week off, you'd play whoever they would be, Bulldogs.
So, yeah, it will be interesting.
I reckon he plays round 1 of finals unless everything changes if they rack up 50 these next 2 weeks.
Oh, definitely.
And Luai has 18 try assists in 2 games, and they go, okay, we can get him to round 2 of the finals and then needle him up.
Yeah, definitely.
I thought Fisher Harris was fantastic in this game. I thought he was probably my man of the match. Hopewadi Tomoko for 2 and Yo for 1, unless you want to go somewhere else.
No, that'll work for me.
Alrighty. 48-6 Storm basically put the end to the Dolphins' finals aspirations as well. There's more injuries, more HIAs. They are very much deep in. They're past the depth in their squad now. The only one I'll really mention out of this game, who had some fantastic defensive moments, was Max Plath again, 50 tackles, but Lemuelu 45. But Plath saved a couple of. I think he had an intercept. He's chopped down Pappy once or twice. He tried as hard as he could, but the tank once again is well and truly empty. And it was the Storm's best attacking performance of the year, and I thought it probably coincided with Ryan Papenhuyzen's best game of the year. He was everywhere in this game. He was fantastic. Jerome Hughes good as usual. Anything else you want to add?
Hughes again. There was talk today saying that with him being rested this week, is he a chance to miss out on the Dally M? If he's not 6 points, 12 points clear, I'll be shocked. We had the chat about it the other week. Who would be close? Arguably Teddy. It's probably the only one.
I reckon top 3 will be Hughes, Burton, because they'll give him lots of points. I suppose we just did. They'll give him lots of 3 points. And Teddy. I think they're the easy 3.
Yeah,
but I think Hughes.
Since I've done
Hughes
this
is
with you,
$1.80
I feel like
and Burton's $2.70. I reckon.
I feel like we've given Hughes 3 points or 2 points every week. It's either been 3 or 2. But Melbourne are primed and ready to go for the finals again. It's amazing what they can do. What Bellamy does to them sets them up quite nicely. What do you say? Coates, does he come? The biggest one is Coates. Does he come back?
I suppose you probably have to. We've talked enough about Fayalongo and Anderson. Well, Anderson's there first and foremost.
I believe Anderson will be back because he was only a HIA, but it's like the side's just going so well.
I imagine I think they do.
Like, obviously, this week is going to be a bit different because they are resting some players, which we'll get to later. But yeah, it's a threatening side to come up against right now.
Absolutely.
Because they've got in that defense, which is what we were kind of questioning throughout the season. The Storm, 2 to 3 tries max against them, and they, there was a few teams putting 4 and 5 past them.
Yeah.
So once they got their defense right, they were always going to be a big threat.
Coincides a bit with Jack Howarth out on an edge, shoring up things there, and Gary Anderson as well. Grant Anderson, sorry. Gary Anderson's a dart player. And Warbrick, well, the big issue was the Warbrick-Meany sort of combination, and they fixed that. So
yes, definitely.
I think this was Pappy. Pappy was outstanding. It's a tough on him and Hughes, and that was the missing piece. Obviously, Munster's a big piece too. It was a missing piece, but they're just starting to fall now. They played very direct here and just killed them. I'm happy to go with Hughes 3 points, 2 Pappy, 1 Katoa.
That'll work.
Anything else from this game? We've brushed through that. That's quick, but what do you say?
There's not. I feel sorry for the Dolphins.
Do you put any stock in the fact that Bennett's now worrying about South more, or not?
I think Bennett would have loved to have at least got them to the week 1 of the finals,
and held his hat on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and been like, all right, I've set yours up. First year we just missed it. Second year we've made it. Now I've something to work from.
I think that there's more to this club than just Wayne Bennett. Like, obviously Christian Wolf's there, and he's probably handling a lot of it. I think injuries are as big a factor. I think.
100%. They're missing. How many are they missing?
They're missing a dozen players.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of those are experienced players. So, that's a big concern.
And some of their key positions, like Jeremy Marshall-King, was a massive loss for them. Not just because of the hooker side of things, but Plath was playing amazing at lock.
Yeah.
So it's affected more than one position, and that's the thing. A few of their
Kenny
injuries
Bromwich, there's another
Ewan
real obvious one. Ewan Aitken was outstanding. So
and that's what I mean. The ones that they've lost hasn't just affected the position they're playing, but others of them had to change positions to makeshift, and it really has been, unfortunately, a massive dominoes effect for them. And I feel like they're going to probably just miss out by maybe 1 win, 2 at most.
And you think as well, remember that run of 6 games where they won 1 and lost like 4 to the top 4 by 2 or 4 points?
Exactly.
They lost to Melbourne in the last minute. They lost to I think it was
Panthers in Golden Point.
They lost in Golden Point, and when they should have had a shot, when they actually should have won that game.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a different conversation. All of a sudden, they're 7th, and we're going, okay, they've done a good job.
Exactly.
Anything else? No, move on.
Who'd you give the points?
Oh, yeah.
We already done the points. No, you already done them.
Hughes, Pappy, and
Hughes,
Katoa.
Pappy, Katoa.
36. Is it look right to you?
Yeah, that was it.
36-16 Knights over Bunnies. Thoughts on this one?
It was more entertaining than what I thought it would be. It's got to that point of the season where you're going to have a couple of these games where they're pretty much not playing for anything except pride. The Knights were the favourites. They done a good job. They got the win. South. It's another year for them of like the what ifs.
Yeah. What if they had a good team?
But
I never bought into. Whenever I tip them top 4, I never bought into that, and I know they have had a shit ton of injuries.
I was the same. I personally didn't have them in the 8 either, but I think we mentioned it the other week, just how many players they are missing, and how it's almost going to feel like, even without new signings, it's going to feel like they're going to get 6 new players next year because they've missed so many players this year for such long periods of time.
And they also, they missed Cam Murray half a year. They've obviously missed Latrell half a year.
Yeah.
Which I notice he hasn't gone and asked for a contract reduction. They
Walker's been in and out constantly. Campbell, Graham, Jai Arrow played with one arm for half the year.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, they're very much like the Tigers and Eels. They just want the season to be over. The Knights, what do you say? I think we mentioned it last week. This is where we expected them to be last year.
Yeah.
And they, apart from that Ponga run that got them into the 8, they're pretty much exactly where they are now.
Yeah.
They're not a top 8 squad.
They realistically need 3 halves. Cogger hasn't done what he reverted back to, I guess, what he'd done the rest of his career. Their forward pack's okay without being spectacular. Still carrying Saifides as such. In this game, for instance, I think everyone just had a moment. Kalen Ponga had a couple of his usual line breaks and set up a couple of tries with what he does, ducking in, throwing out his long ball, things like that. Fletcher Sharp is a fine. He's a gun.
Yeah.
Whatever that means down the road, whether that means they experiment with him and back at fullback and Ponga back at 6. Don't know. Jaden Brayley's been good. Leo Thompson, good.
Dan Gagai probably played the best
fantastic
game of his.
Yeah, he's had a good few. Him and Frizzell have been
he's
very
been good, but it felt like that was a bit more of a standout performance.
Yeah, well, he just got the chance to take on some nuffies on the other side. Like, unfortunately,
that's probably what the difference was. But
yeah, like they all just chimed in and had moments against a team
able to show his class.
Yeah. Well, just quickly, because there's not much else to delve into here. We quickly mentioned South, but for next year, if you're Wayne Bennett, do you come in and just say, sorry, Latrell, you're playing 4, or you're playing 3, or you're playing 6, and try and run with Jai Gray?
I think Jack Wyden's not a 5'8".
Yeah. Do you try and just set up 2 gun centres with Latrell and
Whiten? That's potentially the option.
I assume Elise won't be there. No, they've got the Lewis Dodd coming.
I was going to say, depending on who their halves are, depends on how you got to set the rest of it up.
That's a big.
How does Campbell Graham come back? Does he come back on the
Of
wing
course.
or does he come back in the centres?
No, yeah, that's true.
Um,
Cody Walker's not been brilliant.
no, I think
He will be with a proper half.
we, depending on so say backline of Jai Gray, Johnson, Latrell, White, and Campbell Graham.
Pretty good.
It's not too bad.
And potentially Walker Dodd or
You know, because you've got big, strong outside backs, and then you've got the lightning fast fullback that's still got to grow into the game.
get Jairo back, you get a year out of Cam Murray. You lose Cook, so Mamazilis hasn't grabbed that position, the opportunities he's had.
So yeah, it will be interesting to see how they are moving forward. As for the Knights, it's they've just got to work out their halves.
Obviously, Hastings on the nose again. Will Price hasn't been given the crack. He had that one game. Hasn't really.
Well, he had like 3 games, and then they just dropped him.
Yeah.
He went from, and he was named, and then went from named to outside the 18, and just never come back in.
Yeah, they've got it. They're going to move people on, but I don't know where they go. So everyone can't just keep moving people on either. So,
and that's the thing. It look like
Gago's
going. The Knights guys that they need to move on look like the Super League is their only option.
Yeah.
It's the guys that they're moving on. Don't scream, pick me for another NRL club.
Absolutely not. There are some good kids there, like Leah Thompson, Dylan Lucas.
Yeah, but you don't want if you're the Knights, you don't want to be moving them on. They're the ones.
No, but like they're the ones you need to be getting through. So
I'm
trying to think who else we've seen over the course of the year. Let us know, Newcastle fans. There's probably a couple of obvious ones, but yeah, there's again another club with work to do, and
well, apparently they've tapped Adam Elliott on the shoulder during the week too.
Wow, he's only been here a year. Two. Okay.
So yeah, interesting times. Who did you give the 3-2-1s to?
Oh jeez. Gay Guy 3.
Yep.
Let me just think about this.
I had Cogger.
Oh yeah, no, fair enough. He was involved in a couple of those. And Ponga won. Actually, Fletcher Sharp or Ponga won.
Well, yeah, I was either. Doesn't matter. It's not going to make a difference.
40 Sunday kicked off 48-22. Roosters over the Titans in what, well, was complete destruction and domination. I'm trying to think, what else am I supposed to say here? They were very good. Teddy was outstanding. Walker.
Do you remember when the Roosters fans were upset that they didn't sign David Fifita?
No, I don't. Not anymore. That said, this was the most nothing happening hat trick you'll ever see. He was just in the right spot 3 times. Angus Crichton we speak of, but he just was standing about quite a bit. He did have a good game. He did play really well, but it was funny. All 3 tries were just, okay, I'll score now.
Yep.
Did have a great game, but all across the park, they were great. Tupou, what do you get? A hat trick? 2, 3? How many you get? 2. Sam Walker's kicking game was very good. Kiri did what he had to. You can run down the list. They were all just good.
Yep. I special mention to Khan Pereira, who's now at 43 tries after 42 games.
Wow. And a hat trick in this game.
Yeah.
And had work to do on all of them.
Like, he's a good winger. He is a very good finisher. Very good finisher.
Well, and of those, well, even he's scored 5 in the last couple of weeks, and he's invented 3 of them, I reckon.
Yeah. It's not just your typical winger that's just catch and put down.
Yeah. No, he's a very exciting player. And Kiokini scored their other try, who's their other very exciting player. But they're another one that's been smashed by injuries without repeating the same as we have. That back to the drawing board for them. We actually will do season reviews for each team coming up, starting in a couple of weeks, actually. So we'll save the rest of that chat for now. But quickly running through other bloke I mentioned, Zach Docker-Clay coming in last minute. I thought he had a pretty good game. Was involved in a couple of those line breaks and tries, and defensively was quite good. Some nice touches, but like when you got superstars up and down this team, they all pretty much played to what you expect? Anyone else?
Yeah, I was going to say the only Rooster player that didn't really have a good game was Suaalii, but that's only because he got injured.
Yeah.
Before he could really put a stamp on the game.
Yeah, and it's sort of, unfortunately, it's sort of a nothing happening, one of those nothing happening injuries.
And
I thought it was
they're
a
always
pec
the
or
biggest
something.
worry. The ones
Yeah,
that
of
look
course.
like nothing's happened.
Well, I figured it was a pec the way I was holding it, but
Yeah.
shoulder's the word. Yeah, the rest were good. Teddy was fantastic again. I was giving him 3.
Yep.
2 to Tupanua, and poor old Guzzi gets 1 for his hat trick, but he was very good. Unless you want to give one to Camperera.
I thought Camperera.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Yeah.
Tupanua,
as you said, his tries were, better of the 3.
Yeah, okay. No, we'll give him 1. Tupanua heading to the Dogs. Nice pickup ago. He's always had plenty of talent. Was very good a couple of years ago. He just had some rough years through injury. But sort of floating between centre and the edge there, I thought he was good. Gives him a nice rangy option. Not always the best in defence, but his attack has always been very dangerous. A nice scary Supercoach prospect, actually, if we get him cheap next year.
Definitely.
This baby starting at the Dogs. And we'll wrap up 38-10. Sharks put the Dragons to bed. I think we both tipped the Dragons, didn't we? So
yeah, we did.
We got this one wrong. They just didn't show up.
I said there'd be an upset, so I got the upset part right. I just got the team wrong.
Yeah, but I had higher hopes for them this year. This just showed where they're at, I thought.
Yeah, I still think they make the 8, but that's only because the teams that are below them have harder draws to finish the season.
Yeah, they're under sufferance a little bit now.
Yeah.
And it is credit to Flanagan to get them this far, because a lot of us tipped them for the wooden spoon.
100%. I'd have been the bottom 4. So, they've made the 8. Good on them.
Massive credit. They, so I'm just reading through what's happening with Nico next week. Who do I want to talk about here? Tuipulotu had a good game, actually. He's one of their best, but anyone you can really talk about. Sharks, Daniel Atkinson, another very, very good performance. I suppose Trindle coming back did help them get around the field in decent order, but I thought the 2 centres had outstanding games.
I was going to say Iro and Ramian.
Yeah,
both had great games.
Yeah.
For the Sharks. And this is what we said the Sharks were doing earlier in the year, obviously with different players like Mulatalo and Katoa and that in, but it's been their back 5. It's been what's sort of got them onto the front foot, and then it kind of disappeared, and the forwards then stopped, and it's interesting because the Sharks are in a good enough spot that if they can click, they're in the top 4.
Yeah, well, they are in the top 4, aren't they?
Yeah, like what I'm like, because they started so well, that like they've can they put it all together?
They just feel like the gap in almost the top 6, really, but. Maybe I'm looking at it with blindness because they've been winning again lately, so it's not like they're still losing. But they did win by 30, so
exactly.
They've got a lot of good things going. I thought Blake Brayley was really good in this game. Just seeing as now, and he's had to be without the halves there.
Nico's back in the 22. Is that with him coming back? Are they a premiership threat?
Is there a school of thought to not change your halves? Now you're Atkinson and Trindle there, and try him back at 1.
Potentially.
Are you completely changing everything you've worked on for the last 2 years?
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing though.
But
so
they sort of just finally feel like with Atkinson there the last few weeks, they're just getting more out of there.
Is it Atkinson and Nico as the halves?
True.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
The problem for Nico is he doesn't. As someone who doesn't sort of outwardly exude confidence sometimes, he's now going to be the most talked about player come finals, I reckon.
If he's flying, he's absolutely flying. But it's like the second it kind of goes against him, he just drops the head.
Yeah. Interesting, because I've never. I don't know how well Kennedy's going, but he's come away with a couple of tries the last few weeks. As I said, McGuinness and Brayley both been really good in the absence of the halves, and Brayley again was really good here. But all of those outside backs are now doing the job.
Yep.
So they found one in Sony Street, and who they've still got to come back. Didn't have Talakai here. Didn't
Well,
have
they didn't have
Mulatalo
Mulatalo. They didn't have Katoa.
and Nico.
There was Talakai wasn't there. Nico wasn't there. Jeez, like that's just a couple of handy players.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah.
They've got to be a chance. We could get it. We were probably going to get a rematch of that Roosters Sharks final, almost
Most
like for
likely.
like last year.
Yeah. Having a quick look. Yeah, it looks like it's more than likely with who each other's playing over the next 2 weeks.
I sound like a broken record trying to analyse this game, but the biggest thing is that their outside backs run as hard as anyone in the comp, and a lot of their forwards do too, like consistently for 80 minutes. And I think that's what's dragged their ass to where they've got them to. When I talk about fit teams, they're one of them. Yeah.
And what do you say about the Dragons?
Yeah,
well done for making the 8, but
it should. This season should absolutely be considered a success.
Yep.
We've talked a bit about the Coachmans and Co. last few weeks, so we'll keep that for the review. But massive credit for them to get from essentially a wooden spoon team or all but a wooden spoon team to a top 8 team. They lose Lomax. They lose their biggest strike weapon next year. They've got more work to do. So
and they probably lose Hunt the year after.
Yeah.
So building blocks.
Some interesting shuffling to come in the next 18 months.
Definitely.
Probably in the next 18 weeks, because I reckon the minute we hit November, all the shit's gonna.
The dominoes will start falling. Who'd you give points to?
As I said, Ramian and Iro for me 3-2, and Brayley 1.
Yep.
But can go anywhere else you want.
No, that'll work. As you said, it was. I had Iro as 3, Ramian as 2. But again, flip them around however you want, and that was pretty much. It was like 2 or 3 Sharks before Christian Tuipulotu was the first Dragon, so that'll work.
Beautiful.
The 2 centers and Brayley.
And that puts a bow on round 25. Have you got a pot plan, a salute, or a slap? I haven't really thought about this, so I don't expect all 3 if you haven't either. Chase through the work I've done this week.
The pot plant was Saab.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Probably cost them, recently cost them the game. The slap would be the officials, and we'll move on. The mitigation of the officials.
Yeah, well, to be honest, the slap, I'm going to line 3 of them up here. Manly, who have just cost themselves a home final after being 16-0 in front. The Eels, who have just cost them the spoon after being 16-0 in front. And the Panthers, who have now just butchered a home semi-final with all that possession in a game that they're expected to comfortably win.
Potentially a top 4 spot as well.
Yeah, so I'm just lined all 3 up. Bang, bang, bang.
Cool.
Sorry if I stole your thunder there.
No. Move on. I'll salute. So I may as well salute the Tigers. I don't get to do it often, do I? It's nice
they're just the obvious.
Them and bowl.
The Raiders. That's
Perfect.
a great win against the Panthers. But yeah, the Tigers. Well done.
Fantastic. An extra salute for Cam Pereira, because in a team that's been awful for 6 weeks, to come away, as you said, he broke the club record for most tries this year for the club, and it was his own record from last year. So in 40, what did you say, 42 games, 44 tries?
43 tries from 42 games.
Yeah, proper player. So give him a salute as well. Let's take this home, and we'll talk to everyone soon. Are we going to do a preview now?
Yeah, it's up to you. I don't mind.
Let's preview now. Yep. Wrap this up. So by the time you're watching this, the preview will also be up. Take care, guys. Chat soon.